everybody bringing their best, their A game, everybody putting their best effort into this, especially the underdog teams. So, and what I mean by, the lack of sense of urgency, I'm talking about like just how to end the first half. Instead, I feel like, you have the ball or have the opportunity to get the ball back. It's like they, you know, misusing the timeouts, uh, just the play calls that they run. It's just certain things that I'm seeing, and I'm just thinking like, man, extra, whether you don't get a touchdown, whether you just get 3 points, that can go a long way. One thing about the playoff that, if you know, in Texas high school football, a lot of games be tale of two halves. You see it all the time, each and every week. The same team that come out first half, that the other team, the opposing team, they make adjustments. What you may see in the first quarter might not be, shown for quarters 2, 3, and 4, or possibly overtime. So I just think the the lack of urgency in the playoffs is a little bit alarming for me that I be seeing, and I just feel like you got to put everything on the table. Welcome to another episode of the Platform Podcast, Houston, Texas edition. And we had a great weekend, round one, the by district round. It was a couple upsets, but most teams who were projected to handle business, they handle business. Nothing super surprising. Only thing that was surprising were it was a couple comebacks that I didn't expect. But outside of that, it looks like regular round one version of Texas high school football. Bunch of chaos though. It was a lot of great games, some good close games, some big performances from individual players. uh the atmospheres were lit. Every stadium. I've been to a couple games this past week in the first round. It feel like playoff football. It feel like playoff football. We here now. Round one is in the books. Round two, the area round, we underway. Is now I'm gonna kick things off with talking about a couple bad habits that I've seen this past weekend, and it has to stop. It has to stop. First off, we're gonna talk about the sense of urgency or the lack thereof from the coaches that I've seen. It's like they coach in the regular season game, but you can't do that in the playoffs. It's one and done. Everybody bringing their best, their A game. Everybody putting their best effort into this, especially the underdog teams. So, and what I mean by the lack of sense of urgency, I'm talking about like just how to end the first half. For example, the last 2 minutes is just like it just seemed like you're just going out there, just going through the motions, just trying to get to the halftime. Instead, I feel like you have the ball or have the opportunity to get the ball back. It's like they misusing the timeouts, uh, just the play calls that they run. Just not telling the players, hey, get out of bounds, get down here, or like it's just certain things that I'm seeing, and I'm just thinking like, man, extra, push right here, right before the half. Whether you don't get a touchdown, whether you just get 3 points, that can go a long way. Because one thing about the playoff that, if you know, in Texas high school football, a lot of games be tale of two halves. You see it all the time, each and every week. It's a tale of two halves. The same team that come out first half, that the other team, the opposing team, they make adjustments. They watch film in the locker room, uh, and they come out be a whole completely different ball club. So, what you may see in the first quarter might not be, shown for quarters 2, 3, and 4, or possibly overtime. So I just think the the lack of urgency in the playoffs is a little bit alarming for me that I be seeing, and I just feel like you got to put everything on the table. I'm not saying be careless, be smart, make good judgment calls, but at the end of the day, uh, can't be too conservative. You know, a lot of times the aggressive team wins. You can't be predictable. Like, if you ran this play several times throughout the game and you just line up to run it again, and team by that time the team already know, okay, the same formation, the same guy, he motioning this way. I know where the ball going. I know the snap kind of like just everything. There's no real mix ups. There's no real mix ups, and even like that started to come to bite you in the fourth quarter when things get tight. Because you have an uncharacteristic turnover, or just a bad play in general, a drop pass. Because now you all out of sync, you scrambling, and you go back and look. Oh man, I should have managed this better. I should have did this better. So I would say the lack of sense of urgency that I've seen this first week, I think that has to stop. It's not a series. You don't get no only adjustments you get to make is at halftime. And those half times would be 24 to 28 minutes. You won't get no other time to do it. It's one and done in the playoff. It's one and done. So like the best team who make those adjustments pretty much wins the game. So I just would like to see more I guess to start the game, that first quarter, the dominant teams be a dominant team. Don't wait to turn it on. And go with what's working. Go with what was working. Like it is like I said, it's too much. Let's just get by, because that's how teams get popped. We almost saw it in one game this week. A team who were heavily favored. They didn't play well, particularly in the second half. Much credit to the opposing team for giving them a fight, but I know that there's a lot of things they wish they can do again. Next, I want to talk about a lot of not using your mobile quarterback correctly. Let's just say that if you have a mobile quarterback, like let's like we get too cute sometimes. We get too cute. Like it's been working for you all year, and it's like we try to out trick them in the mind. Like you line up right here, okay, I'm finna fake you right here, and I'm finna throw it to a guy who never really be a part of the game plan, or I'm finna put this player in. They're not gonna expect him to get the ball. They actually give him the ball, and they get stopped. Like no, like yeah, in high school football, mainly in Texas, I always say you have to have that guy under center, and it's best that he be a mobile quarterback. Some of the best teams of all time, and even in recent history, most of those quarterbacks are mobile quarterbacks. Like honestly, the teams who win championships, most of those guys are dual threats who can run and pass, or at least give you the threat to do that. You want to leave all your options open. So, and I'm not saying let the quarterback have 40 carries a game. But in critical situations, is this play works. It's a 3rd and 2. All I gotta do, run a speed option to the my strongest tackle or whatever. I don't know. And a lot of times, you will see that throughout the game. And when it comes down to it, it's that play, that unstoppable play, is not called. When you get too cute, you want to start doing trick plays, or use certain guys as decoys, or you might go wildcat and line your quarterback up at receiver, try to do something too cute, and it hurts you in the end. So like we gotta stop that. Like use your mobile quarterback. And the last bad habit I want to talk about, football is won in trenches, right? I think the word versatility, or how it's viewed, the optics of it, sometimes that can be overrated. And what I mean by that is, for example, if I have if I have a legit elite pass rusher, I'm never dropping him into coverage. I'm never dropping him into coverage. I would, and I know you would look at it and say, okay, well, you could, if his hand in the dirt or if he's standing up, whatever, he can fake like he going to pass, or he could drop back if he got the athleticism. I don't need him to do that. I only want why would I want my pass rusher? If I have an elite pass rusher, it's only two things. He going to get the quarterback and stopping the run. I would much rather that than him being able to get the quarterback and drop back and try to cover a receiver. We have elite corners and safeties and DBs and nickels that can't cover decent receivers. So why would I trust my defensive end? I'm gonna just say pass rusher because they could be outside linebacker as well. Why would I trust my edge rusher to, or not even just in from a trust standpoint, but why they have positions for that? Why would I want him doing that when I can just have him line up, go get the quarterback, or like I said, stop the run? I will much rather that than seeing a defensive end pass rusher drop back in coverage, try to cover the nickel guy. Like none of that be making sense to me. And I just feel like again, it goes back to what I said earlier. Like we get too cute, we try to outthink ourselves too much. Like for example, you got T.J. Watt and you got Miles Garrett. Both are pass rushers, probably two different positions. T.J. Watt is actually listed as an outside linebacker. Miles Garrett is similar to a traditional defensive end. Those guys, they stop in the run, they go and get the quarterback. There's no need, even though yes, T.J. Watt probably could. Miles Garrett is a freak of an athlete, so he probably could at times, drop back in coverage, get a hand up, best passes down, maybe defend the tight end. Probably so, but that's not what make them them. So again, it's like I feel like versatility is a little bit overrated when it comes to certain things. Like, okay, yeah, he can physically do this, but why do we need? It's not necessary. Go get the quarterback, stop the run. That's what we're doing. You're not playing coverage. I'm not dropping you back into a linebacker spot. I'm not dropping you to cover the nickel, playing middle linebacker. No. So let's stop. Let's get away from that. Like I'm starting to see that too much with elite players. Now let's get into a couple predictions. We have some good games this weekend, this upcoming week rather, going on. We're going to start in 4A. We're going to start at 4A, and I'm not going to go over all the games. I'm just going to give you a couple. We're going to start with Crawford versus Lindale. Crawford versus Lindale. Everybody know I'm high on Crawford. I've been high on Crawford all year. I feel like they're a little underrated. And Lindale is a good matchup for them. Both teams coming in at 10-1. I expect Crawford to get the dub. No pun intended. I expect Crawford to win 28-21. That's the final score I'm going with. And they'll move on to round three. Next, I got Yates over Longview Pine Tree, the Beast of the East, versus, you know, the upstart. I don't even want to say upstart. How can I label you? I'm gonna just say JY is back, man. JY is back. I got Yates 30-24 over Longview Pine Tree. I think this game will be much closer than last week's game. I do think Pine Tree is a formidable opponent. I would say that they're a little bit better than Neeville, and so I'm hey I wouldn't be surprised if Pine Tree won, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Yates, you know, ran away with it. Which that will make me rethink some other things. If they just blow the doors off a Pine Tree, that will make me rethink a lot of things. Like not even just for the following game. I'm like, I might get start. I might start saying something. I might start. Hey, if they blow them out, yeah, look out, look out. Now we're gonna go to the 6A D2. I have Willis. No, actually, I'm gonna go Tomball over Willis, 31-17. I don't think Willis is playing great football right now. And you can look at, last week's win over Westfield. Like I said, underdogs they always come to play. Westfield is in a rebuild year. They're in a this you know not one of their better teams that they used to putting out there within recent years. In the rebuild year and they struggle. And I feel like man, at this point you are what you are. Yeah, you can say they had a bad week. That is possible too. They are capable of beating Tomball, but I think Tomball, I trust them a little more. I trust their defense a little more. The offense is not super high powered, but I trust them to put a few points on the board. and to pull away in the second half. I got 31-17 Tomball over Willis. We got Shadow Creek versus Seed King. On paper, Shadow Creek is just as talented as King, just as much. Like you go player for player, they can probably match up with a lot of teams who want player for player, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I just think overall what King have showed this year that they are a true contender, and I feel like Shadow Creek they haven't been playing to their full potential. They got a lot of kids with offers, a lot of kids with stars and all that. But it's like when it's time to put it together against an elite team, you don't really you haven't seen that in a few years. And like I said, the team that I've been watching all year in Shadow Creek is just don't look like a team that would be this King team. It don't at all. So I'm gonna go with C King. I think they can match the speed. The defense I feel like is much better. I think Shadow Creek will keep it close fairly for the most part of the game, and then you'll see Seed King start to pull away. I got 35-20 Seed King. I don't think they're gonna go crazy and score 60, 70 like they have before in a few games this year. Now it's possible to have the firepower. Like I think this game being a playoff game, Shadow Creek they're gonna play hard. I just don't think they would have enough in the end. I think Sea King just too good. They're on the roll right now. It's on the roll. We have Ridge Point versus North Shore. This is most people's game of the week. It probably was mine too, and up until last till I saw the Ridge Point versus Dawson game. Again, the team just like Shadow Creek, they have all the talent in the world. I just don't know if it's time. I thought I thought or it could have been. I had high hopes for them. Even though if you go back and look at my predictions, I picked North Shore to come out this region. But I thought if anybody could beat them in this region, it probably would be Ridge Point, and you have to get them early. Now, to be fair, North Shore did lay an egg against Summer Creek 2 weeks ago. There's so much speculation about what happened in that game, but hey, 0 is 0. So they literally laid an egg, literally. So they can go Jekyll and Hyde too. I just feel like on both teams' best day, I like North Shore better. On both teams' best day, and I think North Shore gonna put together a top tier performance on both sides of the ball. Uh, I don't think they're gonna shut the Rich Point out. The Rich Point, their offense, I think they'll probably look a little better than they did last week. I think they'll score the same amount of points as last week as well, but they'll give up much more. So I'm gonna go 38-21 North Shore over Ridge Point. But it's definitely an interesting game to keep an eye on. I'll be watching that game closely. We're gonna go for my game of the week. Two undefeated teams, two teams who's kind of going under the radar that a lot of people not talking about as far as contenders, and that's Pearland versus Dickinson. Both teams are undefeated at 11-0. Man, I was wrong last week. I had Atascocita in the upset, even though I don't think it would have been an upset. I believed in Carde Mack that much. I still feel like I wasn't wrong in believing in him that much because he almost did it himself. You know, no disrespect to nobody else efforts, but I thought he was that good. Dickinson also showed when it's time they can get a stop or two on defense. And I'm not even going to look at that. Okay, they gave up 47 points. No, Carde Mack would do that to a lot of teams. Like that boy is that special. He's that special. So I'm not gonna look at that as Dickinson have a bad defense. I don't think so. I think Pearland is a really good team. I think Pearland could beat Dickinson, but I right now I think Dickinson rolling. They're a different kind of train. I think Pearland with the right matchups could be had, and I think you're gonna see a little exploitation this upcoming week. So I'm gonna go 35-42 Dickinson. It'll be somewhat of a shootout. Not I don't think no either team will get, near the 50s. So it'll probably be a little less than last week's game. I do think Pearland will put up some points. I think they'll be a little bit more methodical um, to try to keep that high powered offense off the field of Dickinson. But I think in the end it'll be too much, and I think they'll make one more extra stop to get them the win. That's my game of the week. So yes, I have Dickinson over Pearland 42-35. Check back in later this week. We may have a guest on the show. You never know. But this has been another episode of the Platform Podcast, Houston, Texas edition.